Like and subscribe right now, or else this will be in your bed tonight. r/ask Reddit by Planet Reddit. Serious, what are the things your parents have done to you which you wouldn't do to your child? Control everything. I don't necessarily have a helicopter mom, but she's definitely controlling. I'm 20 years old and she cried and told me I was being selfish when I told her I wanted my SSC and my birth certificate when I moved a few states away. I don't know how to file my own taxes. I never did anything. I would have preferred her tell me more things and help me do things rather than do it all herself and keep me out of the loop. Dear parents, your child's social security card and birth certificate is not a participation award for being a parent. They're documents required for adulting. It doesn't feel like it should need to be said, but apparently that's a novel concept. I had to literally steal my SSC from my mom's closet so I could get a job when I was 18, because she wouldn't give it to me. When she found out I was working, she complained a whole bunch, but I convinced her to let me keep going. After I left my job at Subway after 4.5 months, I made roughly $1,000, and she took all of it, literally snatched the money from my fingers and put it into a bank account that I'm still not allowed to touch. A year later, if stuff like this keeps happening, I honestly don't know how I'm gonna survive as an adult, and that terrifies me. If you're 18, that is definitely theft and not legal. My mom faked cancer for 2 years when I was in high school. Even shaved her head and everything. Haven't spoke to her in 12 years. She disgusts me. I'm sorry you had to go through all of that, but what was the reason for faking a deadly disease for 2 years? Edit grammar. People with cancer get big props online, and in public in some cases. People are more forgiving friendly if they think you might die soon. And a woman with a bald head due to chemo strikes a chord with everyone. If you're stuck in what you see as a boring life of keeping your kids alive and the house clean for 20 years, sometimes you crave something to make you interesting to strangers again. It's a normal desire, especially as your kids get ready to leave home. But some people don't know the diff between positive and negative attention. Exactly, she literally just wanted attention. When I was 3, I slammed my door. They took the door off the hinges and refused to ever put it back. We had to move to a different house before I got a door. Over a decade later, and I had to move out before I had a door with a lock. I would never destroy my kids' privacy like that. Wow, that is so extreme for such a minor ordeal. I did this to my kid, but like for a day, so that they would stop slamming the goddamn door. It worked really well too. I can't fathom leaving it like that indefinitely. It was a punishment. Like treat the door nicely or I'm taking it. Punishments that last indefinitely aren't punishments. They are just the new state of things. In this case, a new horrible state. We've never taken the doors off of our kids' rooms. Old house, old doors. A big pain in the neck. But every time they slammed their door, I calmly walked back to their room, stood inside their room with them, and had them close it softly 5 times. I would say it's okay to be angry, but it's not okay to have a fit. Slamming the door is having a fit. And then I would leave the room so they could calm down. It didn't take very long for them to learn. When they got angry, they would stomp and huff and puff back to their rooms and then softly close the door. My parents couldn't talk to each other after they got divorced, so they used me as a message board. Tell you mother, you tell your father, fucking grow up and talk to each other. My parents split up around 28 or 29 years ago and still won't talk to each other. I'm dreading the day when me or a sibling gets married or something where they are both there. I'll spend the entire time waiting for them to have an argument about something. Edit. 18 or 19 years ago. Had to deal with this when I got married. Parents were standoffish and awkward the whole time. Thank God my in-laws are amazing people who helped ease the tension and keep them separate. My dad yelled at me for complaining about my broken arm. I didn't know it was broken at the time. And he just screamed at me to stop whining about the pain. I was 10 at the time. Still mad about that. I would never be so short-tempered with my kids, and actually listen to them when they say something is wrong. My whole life I've heard there's nothing wrong with you. Whenever I hurt, broke my finger, there's nothing wrong with you. I even got into trouble for that one. So now I'm 34 and lived with acute pancreatitis for a year. Unbearable pain. Because I was afraid that the doctor would say the same thing my parents always did. I could have died. My parents accused me of faking the symptoms of my asthma, so I didn't get a formal diagnosis until I was 25. I don't think they believe I have asthma. I hope you don't have permanent damage now. Comparing my grades successes with my siblings, I feel like it can be really disheartening and discouraging for the one that doesn't perform as well. My father does this. I fucking hate it. All it does is make me feel like the lesser child. I was really proud of myself this year. Got myself out of a depressive loop and got my grades way up in the span of about a month. I showed my dad my grades and he said I should be ashamed because they weren't as good as my sisters. Now my depression has almost gotten as bad as it was before. Edit. Thanks you guys. This really means a lot to me. Fuck that. I'll be proud of you for him. Congratulations. School is a challenge during the best of times and I can only imagine how much worse it was through during quarantine. If my dad found out I had a crush on a girl, he'd tease me and make me feel embarrassed about it. Made me feel like I could never go to him for advice on girls. My parents did this to the point I struggle to talk to girls, even though I'm ace. I forgot what ace meant and I thought you were just calling yourself a really badass person confidently for a second. Damn. I wish I had confidence. Spanked me with a wooden spoon until I'd given to whatever they were asking. Never will I ever. Spanking never once made me reconsider or regret my behavior. It just made me more careful to hide it in the future, and eventually made me great at fake crying and lying to my parents in general. And since it was the go-to punishment for everything, the punishment was never proportionate to the misdeed. All indiscretions were punished the same, so they all seemed equally bad. Which is a shit lesson to teach. It's 100% just adults relieving their anger in a physical manner. But instead of punching a pillow or going for a jog, they hit the thing that they think is causing the anger. No better than kicking a dog. My ex-stepdad had no issues punishing me and my brother in questionable ways. I have a scar on my back from when he took a branch that was on fire from our fire pit and would whack the hell out of me with it. One time he also pinned me down and would let my sister repeatedly punch me in the nose because I apparently had upset her. I remember one time our deep freeze got left open and all the meat thawed and he would whip me and my brother until one of us confessed. Turns out it was him after all during a drunk night and he wanted something to eat. I'm sorry. I hope you have a better life. To be honest, I am having a pretty good life. I am over all that as it was over 20 years ago. I'm 36 now and father of 5 children and happy. Thank you. Well, isn't that great to know, my guy? Seems like you're doing well. Let's see. Neglected me in a crib for days in the hot sun to the point where I had maggots in my diapers. Sent me to school with scratches and bruises. Hit me directly in the head with things. Threatened to kill me. Treat me like a complete failure in my teen years without questioning why. Oh, and when I got taken away and put in a foster home, foster mom molested me. I'm not having kids, but that's because I'm unstable and tend to isolate. I'm so sorry that you had to go through all this. I'm sorry you had to go through this shit in life. Hope you are doing okay. Wishing your life becomes more stable and good people enrich it to drown out bad memories. Wishing you anything good you desire. Red Heart. Thank you, Red Heart. Unfortunately, my life is pretty shit. I'm very isolated. Haven't seen another person in a social setting in months. My teeth are so act I need dentures. Sorry to vent. Things suck. Ask for money, especially now knowing how much my mother spends on pointless things and then wonders why they don't ever have money. Just annoying and I don't feel bad anymore. My father bust his behind to make money and she just blows it all. Did she work? Yep, makes good money too. She just can't seem to walk into a store and buy what she needs. She buys for everyone and their cousins, it seems. My father worked 2 jobs 1 year recently and made over 100k. Money is gone with nothing to show for it. Makes me sick. Feel bad for my dad. My mom does this too. My dad always says he can't ever buy anything he really wants while my mom goes and buys every stupid goddamn thing she sees on Amazon, like fucking workout equipment she won't touch and cat harnesses of all things. The woman is a menace. Physical abuse. Mental and verbal abuse. My mother and stepfather commented on my body a lot, and most importantly, I would never sexually molest my children. OMG, I am sorry, there are such terrible people. You are okay now, Hopophily? I am better now. It took a lot of years of healing and therapy, but I've accepted it as part of my past. Thank you for asking. Tell them to come stay into the living room, even late in the evening, and argue in front of them to have them as witnesses. Have them stand and face the wall of my bedroom for 40 minutes while I lie in bed and watch some things on my laptop. Drive dangerously in my car, sudden full stops on the highway, aggressively speeding and changing the gear aggressively when the children are arguing in the backseat to scare them. IDK, really, why my father did this? Stop allowing contact with my brother/brother-in-law because he is gay, and alienating the entire family with this. Ensuring that my child has no family except parents and sibling. Edit. Sorry, I worded this weirdly. I tried to write it from the perspective of my parents, I guess. My father forbid my mother contact with her brother because he is gay, locking them in a dark bathroom for at least 20 minutes. Force my religion belief on them. Do you talk to your brother now? Damn, I just realized I worded this really weird. Because the question was like, what would you do if you're the parent? And so I tried to wrote the sentence from the perspective of my parents. To make it clear, my father forbid my mother contact with her brother, and so she lost contact to the rest of her family, and my brother and me grew up without really knowing them. I don't know if she also agreed to cut off contact with him, or if she just did it because my father told her so. But no, there is still no contact to my uncle or any other member of my family except my brother and parents. Join our community Discord, link in description. Chose drugs over me, left me with a babysitter that molested me for years, choke slammed me to the ground, dropped a knee in my chest fracturing my sternum, tried to fight me for my smartest mouth. Those are just a few gems of my wonderful childhood. Damn dude, that sucks. I'm sorry you had to go through that. Hope all is well for you now. Oh yes, I am the perfect picture of mental health. I can appreciate your sarcasm here. If it is indeed sarcasm, if you ever need someone to talk to about shitty childhoods, my DMs are open. I am also the perfect picture of mental health. Make fun of me in front of company. It wasn't malicious, just thoughtless. Now my mom always complains that I don't tell her anything. I literally told her once, this is why I don't tell you things, and it was like she never considered that I might not want everyone and their brother to know my personal business. I hate when my mom gossips about my private life to literally everyone, and then she gets upset when I won't tell her things. Like bawling, extremely heartbroken kind of upset. She can act pretty entitled to my emotions and information about me without actually earning it. It's so draining. Refusing to accept that my child has feelings. Every yucking time I'm criticized for playing games and enjoying my time. Throw a full beer can at my head with remarkable accuracy, among other things. Dude, I was a boss at dodgeball as a kid from all the shit my grandmother used to throw at me. She once threw a plate full of spaghetti directly at my face at point blank range. Still managed to dodge it. Still had to clean it all up afterwards, though. Haha, this made me smile. When I was a kid, my mom would throw her slippers at me and we'd literally sprint all over the house for full minutes at a time with me dodging and her picking up the missed slippers and throwing them again. In retrospect, that might have been why I was so good at dodgeball as a kid too. If you can dodge child abuse, you can dodge a ball. Stop talking to them over a woman twice, and let them forget I'm here for them and I love them. My dad was not a good dad. I remember when I was little, after my parents got divorced, I would sit on our front steps with my little suitcase waiting for my dad because he'd tell me he was coming to get me. My mom would get a call from my dad making some excuse as to why he couldn't come get me. She told me she would break down and cry because she was the one that had to tell me he wasn't coming, and she knew I'd be upset and likely cry. This happened a lot. I also remember when they made us start dialing area codes. I was probably 7. I didn't know, so I'd dial the 7-digit number and it just gave me a busy signal. I tried to call him for months. I would sit there and cry because I wanted my dad to just be my dad and I didn't know if he was even alive. Turns out he was alive. He just didn't care to give his son a call. Growing up without a dad sucks. My son will never experience that. I hug him and kiss him and tell him I love him all the time. Maybe too much, but I don't care. He's 5 and he'll be pushing me off him before long. I'd rather him be spoiled than go through what I went through. I remember a drunken phone call from my dad. I would have been about 12. So 4 years after my last contact with him, he swore up and down he would drive from Scotland to pick me up in Leicester and take me to his house for a couple of weeks. We would hang out and have fun. And I remember just being completely unable to muster any enthusiasm. This wasn't the first time, though it was the first time he had said it directly to me. Usually he just told mum. So I packed. Because what if he actually came this time? And I waited. Because he should be here any moment. Right? I think the call came early the next evening that he wasn't coming. Mum forced him to tell me himself. I just said okay. He sounded so defeated on the phone that I just didn't care to tear into him. I just remember feeling numb about it. Haven't spoken to him since. If and when I have children, I aim to keep a promise to them that I have had since I was 8. I will never not be in their lives. If I divorce, if I hate my current wife, can't even imagine either happening, I will still be there for my child. Growing up without a dad is better than growing up with a shit dad, I guess. Mine is pretty mild. My mom used to severely limit my media intake. I get where she was coming from, trying to protect me from sexual ideas and violence when I was young. The problem was that it limited my knowledge of literally everything. I had a hard time fitting in because of it. I remember leaving my friend's birthday sleepover because going to see the Titanic was part of the party. I still have never watched it. Being raised vegetarian certainly didn't help. I was always invited to my friends' houses for cookouts and always had explained that my mom won't let me eat anything. One time she grounded me for eating grapes at a friend's house, claiming it would spoil my dinner when in reality I was really just trying to be polite to the woman who was trying extra hard to accommodate a snack for me. I feel like my life could have gone in a completely different direction if I had been able to explore ideas more, to consider different lifestyles and be inspired from conflicts. IDK. My parents were really similar, minus the vegetarian part. I thought I just hated movies up until I was 14 because the only things I was allowed to watch were Barbie and My Little Pony DVDs. I used to hide under the covers at night with a radio to record songs from the popular music station onto a cassette. I was only allowed to listen to oldies : glad we're adults now. Life is pretty good all things considered. This is not as mild as you think it is. This sounds like the Black Mirror episode about parental censorship. In addition to learning through media being a huge force of growing up in the modern era, your agency was severely restricted. Sure, you may have avoided potentially harmful experiences or habits, but you weren't allowed the opportunities of growth through exposure to the world around you. You didn't have the autonomy to form your own informed opinions through your own lens. I'm sorry you were denied those freedoms. Mum's an absolute psycho, so basically everything different. If I didn't wake up for school at a specific time, she would beat me up and throw me out the house with no lunch. So yeah, childhood at home was no fun. I'm so sorry you had to live through that. Teach them that the only acceptable way to live is the way they do. Grew up with some serious judgmental thoughts about people different from me that are still hard to drive out. I hear you, it's like logically you know it to be untrue, but there are deep-seated ideas my parents planted that are just hard to kick. Most of mine are religious things. My parents disowned me 7.5 years ago. I would never ever disown my 2 boys. Mom hug. Thanks. Make me go to bed every single day at 7:30 p.m. Do you go to bed at a reasonable hour now? I didn't have a strict bedtime as a kid and I tend to stay up way too late as an adult. Well, I'm 16, almost 17, right now and my bedtime is 9:15, even in the weekend's vacation, which is still ridiculous but I take my phone with me and go to sleep at around 10:30, which is more reasonable to me. That is crazy. I didn't have a bedtime after 13 or 14. Severely restrict video games. My parents didn't grow up with them, so they viewed video games as dumb, or at worst, bad for you. Why they'd be worse than watching TV, I don't know. It just killed me to not be able to even use my own money to buy a NES. Still stings today when I think about that. My kids and I have a blast today. My mom's logic. Playing video games damages the TV. Bullshit, Mom. Both the console and TV was from the same company. We didn't have TV until I was about 11 because we lived in a remote area. Once we did get TV, I was restricted to 1 hour a week until I was in high school. But having gotten used to life without it, I never did take much of an interest. I've long since moved away and haven't had a TV in like 13 years. I do like video games though, and that stems from my years hanging out at the video arcade when I was a kid in the 1980s. My mom never allowed me to express my emotions in a healthy way. Whenever I would cry, there would be a time limit like, okay, you've cried enough, now stop. Same thing with every other emotion as well, especially negative ones. My dad was the fun parent to me until I grew up and realized he emotional and mentally abused my brother and my mom. I never got the brunt of any of it because I was his favorite. I was the favorite for everyone and always needed to be a mediator because no one could communicate properly. You shouldn't face to force a 15-year-old to be a messenger. In the end, my mom realized that she needed to stop hindering my emotional immaturity, but still slips into really bad habits of, okay, that's enough, here is advice. My dad is still a piece of shit. He stopped the abuse mostly, but even so he's the type that has given up on himself and won't try to get better than he was. He's disappointed me too many times. I won't tell my kids it's not bad to cry. I won't hold grudges against them. I won't play favorites. Both me and my husband had bad parents and I know I'll be doing mistakes too, but I'll own up to it and do my best to learn. I feel you. With me, they also disliked positive emotions. Being enthusiastic about something and then being told off or mocked messed me up worse than stop crying or I'll give you a reason to cry. My parents wanted a well-functioning robot, not a human child. Make my daughter feel insecure about her looks or feel that her entire worth is tied to her looks. My mom's an attractive woman. I took a lot of my looks from my dad's side of the family and she made it no secret that she felt they weren't attractive people. She would compare my looks to other girls. I was an awkward teen. She didn't like how my hair is more afro texture or how I put on makeup. It took my husband to help me to realize that I didn't need makeup to be pretty. Girls go enough insecurity about their looks. I won't be the one to make it worse. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for 3 videos a day.